everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040, bringing to you another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. And November 14th, 1999 marks 25 years ago that history was made when Kurt Angle made his WWF debut at Survivor Series 99 and kicked off what many considered to be the greatest rookie year in WWF history. And for today's special edition, I am going to be discussing the success and failures of Kurt Angle's first year in the WWF from November 1999 to December 2000. Anybody who knows me knows that Kurt Angle is one of my all time favorite wrestlers, and I have gone on record many times over the years as far as saying that Kurt Angle, bar none, is the greatest technical wrestler to ever step into the ring since the legendary Bret Hart. And what more can you say about Kurt Angle? He is highly versatile. He can have a good match with anybody you can put him in the ring with. He is so good, he can have a five-star match with a broomstick, and he's incredibly entertaining on the mic. He's not afraid of making a fool out of himself for the sake of the fans. You name it. Kurt Angle is the whole package for what a wrestler should be. And he came in very strong and quickly adapted to the WWF style of in ring action from his early days in the amateurs when he won an Olympic gold medal in freestyle wrestling and, in his words, won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck. And as I said, Kurt Angle made his debut at Survivor Series 99 and faced Shawn Stasiak in his first official match, which was around 5 to 6 minutes long. And I still remember the first time I saw Kurt Angle. I remember watching him with my best friend, and I thought, okay, this guy can really wrestle. He's really good. But it was his personality that was a huge turnoff because I found Kurt Angle at the time very overbearing, very arrogant, and very annoying. And I always remembered people saying that Kurt Angle was the babyface that everybody hated. And I've even gone on record as well to say that Kurt Angle is the Carlton Banks of wrestling. You know, someone who is incredibly annoying, rubs people up the wrong way without even realizing he's doing it, comes out with really stupid things that lands him into a lot of trouble. And yeah, that's kind of what Kurt Angle is, you know, just this overbearing, annoying goofball. And you look at when he came in at the time, the company was in full swing with the Attitude Era. You had so many badasses: Undertaker, Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, DX, Kane, Mankind. You know, had all of these tough guys who the fans loved and respected. And then you have Kurt Angle. He just stood out like a sore thumb, and the fans just looked at him like, look at this guy. He's nowhere near as cool as some of the others. You know, he's not a Rock. He's not a Stone Cold. He's just an idiot. He has no place in the Attitude Era whatsoever. But the fans knew and understood that he is a goofball, but boy, he can work and he can back up everything he says. So, shortly after Kurt Angle made his WWF debut at Survivor Series 99, he faced Steve Blackman at Armageddon 99. Again, pretty short match, what, 5 to 6 minutes. And then Kurt Angle would go on a little undefeated streak as we headed into the year 2000. And one moment, one of many obviously, that stood out to me was his match he had against Taz at the Royal Rumble 2000. Taz made his WWF debut that night and faced Kurt Angle in a pretty entertaining match. I mean, it wasn't very long, but I remember it was a pretty decent match. And Taz locked in the Taz mission and choked him out, even though Kurt Angle never really tapped out or, he just passed out. And he kept proclaiming that, nope, I'm still undefeated. He used an illegal choke, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm still undefeated. And then, of course, The Rock actually did beat him to give him his first official loss. But that didn't slow Kurt Angle down at all. Kurt Angle would then defeat Val Venus for the European title on SmackDown. He would then go on to defeat Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental title at No Way Out 2000, thus becoming a double champion, holding both Intercontinental and European titles. And Kurt Angle even declared himself as the Eurocontinental champion. So Kurt Angle was off to a great start, undefeated, holding two of WWF's biggest titles. Nothing could slow down Kurt Angle. And then he would steam into WrestleMania 2000 in his first official appearance at the biggest show of the year, and defended both titles against Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho in a triple threat match. And he lost both titles without actually being pinned. But that didn't slow Kurt Angle's momentum down. He would go on to have a very entertaining program against The Big Show, which culminated in a match at Backlash 2000, which he lost. But one thing that was very perplexing about Kurt Angle at the time of all of these matches, here's someone who came in very strong, won a couple of his pay per view matches, went on a little undefeated streak, and then all of a sudden he started losing a lot of matches. And I never understood at the time. I thought, why would someone who's in his first year lose so many matches? It just didn't really make any sense to me. But the cool thing about it was, even though Kurt Angle lost quite a lot of pay per view matches, he was still on a huge roll. He got better. So sometimes, even though you may lose a match, you can come out of it looking better. And that's exactly what Kurt Angle did. And shortly after he got done with the Big Show, he started hanging out with Edge and Christian. Now, this pairing was very entertaining because, as I said earlier, if Kurt Angle was the Carlton Banks of wrestling, then Edge and Christian were the Bill and Ted of wrestling. So imagine putting Carlton Banks with Bill and Ted, three of the most annoying, overbearing guys there is in one team. That's pretty much what you had here. And Edge and Christian would not only go on to become Kurt Angle's best friends, but they were kind of like his backup, so to speak. So anytime Kurt Angle was in trouble or he needed an assist, Edge and Christian were right there with him. And even when it's so funny, I still remember this. Edge and Christian would always have Kurt Angle's back, and they would sometimes say to him, "Look, Kurt, I know you've got a huge match against Kane, but if you want our help, we'll be there for you." And Kurt Angle, being such an idiot that he is, he would say to Edge and Christian, "Oh, don't worry about it. I can handle the burned freak in the mask. Kane's not a problem. He's all mine. Thanks, guys, but I've got this." And Edge and Christian, knowing what Kane's like, would say, "Well, I don't know, Kurt. It's Kane. It's the big red machine. We don't mind being out there with you to lend you a hand." And Kurt would say, "Nah, I can beat Kane all by myself. Not a problem." And it was just so stupid. But I thought the chemistry between Kurt Angle, Edge, and Christian was just brilliant. I thought they worked really well together. And just look at it, in the short time Angle's been there already, mixing it up with Jericho and Benoit, and now pairing up with Edge and Christian, one of the top tag teams in the company. So obviously, WWF saw something in Angle, otherwise, they wouldn't be pairing him up with all of these big names. And then obviously, Angle would team up with Edge and Christian in a tag team match at Judgment Day 2000 when they lost to Too Cool and Rikishi. Now, Rikishi would go on to become one of many important opponents for Kurt Angle as we move along to the King of the Ring in 2000. Now, this for me was when Kurt Angle really came into his own as a wrestler, and the King of the Ring pay per view would play an important part in Kurt Angle's career. Now, obviously, in the past, the King of the Ring tournament has propelled and started off a lot of careers for a lot of guys. Bret Hart won the King of the Ring. He went on to become one of the all-time greats. Owen Hart went on to become one of the all-time greats after winning the King of the Ring. Stone Cold Steve Austin won the King of the Ring. Enough said there. He would go on to become one, if not the biggest star ever in the Attitude Era. Triple H won the King of the Ring in '97, which would lead to the birth of the game. So it's helped propel and kick off a lot of careers for a lot of guys. So the King of the Ring 2000 was no exception. And this was probably my favourite tournaments of all of the King of the Rings they've had over the years on pay per view. And Kurt Angle would march into King of the Ring and just dominate, and he would go on to win the whole thing. We would see Kurt Angle, first of all, defeated Chris Jericho in the quarterfinals, and then after that, Kurt Angle would go on to defeat Crash Holly in the semi-finals, and then he would finally go on to defeat Rikishi in the finals after delivering a belly-to-belly suplex off the top rope and became the King of the Ring 2000 winner. Now, this for me was huge. This was a huge deal because not only did Kurt Angle win the King of the Ring 2000, I still say this was the best tournament ever. It was virtually the whole pay per view. That's what I liked because in more later years, you just have the semi-finals and then the finals, and that's it. But with the 2000, it was the whole show virtually, and I liked that. So Angle was now the King of the Ring 2000, thus calling himself King Kurt, coming out with a big crown and the robe and the scepter. Such an idiot. But this guaranteed Kurt Angle main event status, and this kicked off his career in a big way. He was already mixing it up with some of the top guys, but now that he won the King of the Ring 2000, he was well and truly on his way to the next level. And here's where things get more interesting. He would shortly after go into a mini program against The Undertaker. Now, Kurt Angle and The Undertaker, two of my all time favourites, going at it. Now, I would say that Kurt Angle and The Undertaker had much better matches in their career later on, especially in 2002 and 2003. 2001, they had some good matches, but I thought 2002 and 2003, they had even better matches. And 2006, they had probably one of the best matches they've ever had in their life. Now, this was a big deal because Kurt Angle was now on to the next level. He was now in a program with one of the biggest true legends ever in The Undertaker, who had been in the WWF for almost a decade. So for Angle, mixing it up with The Undertaker was a big deal. And their feud was quite entertaining. You know, Angle accidentally spilling crap all over Undertaker's motorbike and saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Undertaker. I didn't mean to. It was an accident," and accidentally hitting Taker with a sledgehammer and saying, "I'm really, really sorry, Undertaker. I wasn't aiming for you. I was aiming for Triple H," and so very silly behavior from Angle and coming out on the scooter and said, "Look, I've got something perfect for you. This is my apology from me to you. I've got you your own personal scooter." And obviously, Undertaker didn't like that. And this really opened, in my eyes, and to everyone else's, that Angle was the real deal. He was a goofball, but then slowly over time, we would start to see that classic mean streak that would basically make Kurt Angle a legend. And Angle would hit the Undertaker's legs with a wrench, and then we get to Fully Loaded 2000, and it was pretty much a squash match. I mean, Angle did get a few hits in, he did work on Taker's legs a couple of times, but it was essentially a squash match. It wasn't as good as the matches they would have later on. But Angle lost to The Undertaker. Again, I didn't really understand what was going on. I just thought, hang on a minute. He just won the King of the Ring 2000 tournament. He should have beaten Taker. What's going on here? It didn't make a lot of sense to me as a wrestling fan. But the more he lost, the more he got better, and the more he came out of it a winner. So even though Undertaker got the win, Angle was a winner too. But I didn't look at it like that at the time. So, it was very strange. And then he would enter into a love triangle program with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon with the whole, we're just friends, Hunter. Why can't a guy and a girl be friends? And this for me was where Angle really came into his own as a WWF personality. I thought this was some of his best work ever. He was being a goofball, hitting on Stephanie, but this was all part of Angle's plan to piss off Triple H, and it worked. And, you know, it's funny because I can't think of any other wrestler except maybe The Rock who can get under Triple H's skin quite like Kurt Angle. And that's a testament to how good Kurt Angle really is. And this whole love triangle thing would continue into SummerSlam 2000, where Kurt Angle was in a triple threat match against The Rock and Triple H. And this to me was like, okay, now we're going somewhere. Angle's in the main event. He's mixing it up with The Rock and Triple H, the two guys who've been carrying the company for virtually the whole year. And even though Angle got knocked out at the start with a bad concussion thanks to a botched up pedigree, he came back and not only finished the match, but he put on a kick ass performance. And this is all going on. This was just after he made the moves on Stephanie on SmackDown 3 days before. And you could really see Angle was growing as a wrestler, as a performer, you name it, everything. And Angle had only been in the company for a year and a half. He was not even barely through his first year yet, and here we are, from Survivor Series 99 facing Shawn Stasiak to now in the main event at SummerSlam facing The Rock and Triple H. What an amazing climb. And obviously Angle lost, but that didn't hurt him at all. In fact, he got better, and the feud between Triple H and Angle just continued to grow more and more personal. And Angle lost to Triple H at Unforgiven 2000, which was a really good match. I thought it was an excellent match after Stephanie low blowed Angle and Hunter hit the pedigree. Now, obviously, we've heard the story in the past that originally Stephanie was to turn on her husband, Triple H, and go off from Angle. And I think Angle was supposed to win that match. I would have loved to have seen that. I've said that before. It would have been phenomenal just to see the nuclear heat Angle would have got. And there was a moment before Unforgiven 2000 where Angle's character shifted. He hit Triple H with a sledgehammer, busting his ribs, forced himself on Stephanie, and said to Triple H, ask your wife if I kiss like a pansy. Oh, and one more thing, Hunter. Who's crying now? I thought, okay, Angle's not a goofball anymore. He's a serious badass now. Obviously, he still acted stupid after, but you could clearly see Angle's character was starting to shift. He was slowly starting to not be as stupid as before. And people were like, okay, he's still an idiot, but he's not that stupid. He's intelligent, hence the three eyes. Intensity, intelligence, and integrity. So he's not that stupid as we are led to believe. And then things got even more better. He would enter into a program against The Rock, which for me was one of the best things that ever happened to Angle. And Rock would do the job, drop the WWF title to Kurt Angle at No Mercy 2000. For me, and I've said this before, and I think a lot of people would agree, The Rock is, I've said this before on a past edition, Rock is such a classy guy. He essentially helped put Kurt Angle on the map. And he did the same for Brock Lesnar just a couple of years after. But I've noticed that guys who've won their first world title, they beat The Rock. Kurt Angle won his first world title when he beat The Rock at No Mercy 2000. Chris Jericho won his first world title when he defeated The Rock at No Mercy 2001. And then Brock Lesnar won his first world title at SummerSlam 2002 when he beat The Rock. Really says a lot about the kind of person The Rock is. You know, for The Rock to drop the world title to Angle was a very classy thing to do. And, it was obvious that Kurt Angle was ready to get to that next level. And who better to go to the next level than defeating The Rock? Doesn't get any better than that. And Rock is such a selfless guy, so unselfish. He has no problem being a team player whatsoever. Triple H, on the other hand, 50-50. He did kind of bury Angle a little bit, but that didn't slow Angle down. Far from it. But I think with The Rock, what he did, he took Angle and just shot him to the moon. And it was a great match as well. I thought Angle and The Rock had unbelievable chemistry. And I think when you put The Rock in the ring against Kurt Angle, The Rock was a great wrestler, but not to be horrible to him, Kurt Angle in the wrestling department pissed on The Rock. He was so good and he could run circles around The Rock. But I think Rock's speed, his quickness, and his smash mouth style against Angle's amateur style, I thought meshed very well together. I thought they had very good chemistry. I would have loved to have seen them have more pay per view matches. They did have a couple more on SmackDown and Raw, obviously. They had one more singles match at No Way Out 2001, but damn, I would have loved to have seen more from those two. They just killed it in the ring each and every time. So now Kurt Angle was the WWF champion, and what a transition! To go from feuding with guys like Shawn Stasiak and Steve Blackman and Taz to mixing it up with Chris Jericho, hooking up with Edge and Christian, feuding with The Big Show, to winning the King of the Ring 2000, to mixing it up with Triple H and The Rock and The Undertaker, and now he was the WWF champion. And he'd already won the European and Intercontinental titles, but now he was a world champion. Unbelievable. And he would go on to defeat The Undertaker at Survivor Series 2000 and retaining the WWF title. Their match was pretty okay. As I said, I thought they would go on to have much better matches later on. And Kurt Angle would go on to compete in his first and surprisingly only Hell in a Cell match in a six-man Hell in a Cell at Armageddon 2000 when he defeated Rikishi, The Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H, and The Undertaker. That's a pretty impressive list. And I remember going into Armageddon 2000, obviously Angle, Rikishi, and Hunter had a bit of an uneasy, unholy alliance, which obviously imploded. And I remember everybody in secondary school said, "Oh, Kurt Angle is going to lose the WWF title. You know, he's got no chance against those five guys." And he beat them. And because I didn't have Sky at the time, I think Armageddon was shown on Channel 4. I didn't watch it. I think I remember I went into school the next day. I went on WWF.com and I remember seeing Angle's bloodied face holding the belt. It says, "Angle retains." I just thought, what? Against those five guys? Come on! But wow, it's an amazing first year for Angle. You know, all those big names he would mix it up with, winning his first and only Hell in a Cell match, King of the Ring 2000 tournament, European Intercontinental titles, WWF title, undefeated streak, you name it. Kurt Angle had an amazing first year. Wow. I think Brock Lesnar may come close to topping that, but Kurt Angle definitely had an amazing first year. And I'd still say to this day, all due respect to Brock Lesnar, he had a great first year. It was just different. I think Angle had an amazing first year. I think out of guys who had an amazing first year, will definitely be Angle and Lesnar for sure. They had quite a unique first year. So, in terms of the success and failures, I would say he did lose too many matches, but now I understand why. But there were a couple that did hurt him, not much, but by and large, I would say his first year was a complete success. You know, there wasn't much failures. I mean, I looked at them as failures at the time, but now that I look back at things and see things a bit differently, I thought, okay, they weren't really failures. But Kurt Angle definitely had an amazing first year. It was a complete success, not much failures at all. I loved it. I thought it was an amazing first year. And, you know, just going through all of these memories and seeing how much Angle's character transitioned from a goofball to having a mean streak and then just becoming a total monster. He's had so many different personalities, but you know what? They all work. It's all Kurt Angle, but just different. And that's what I liked about Kurt Angle's first year. He didn't stay the goofball for long. He started to get a bit of a mean streak, although he would still come out with stupid things, which you would think, is this guy really for real? You know, but yeah, his first year was amazing. So that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What did you guys think of Kurt Angle's first year? Did you enjoy it? Do you look at it as a complete success or do you look at it as a complete failure? What was your favourite feuds involving Kurt Angle in his first year? Was it against Triple H, The Rock, The Undertaker, Big Show, Jericho? What was your favourite match from his first year? Did you like his match against Triple H at Unforgiven 2000? Did you like the match against The Rock at No Mercy 2000? Fully Loaded 2000 and Survivor Series 2000 against The Undertaker? Did you like the six-man Hell in a Cell match? What did you think of Kurt Angle's debut? What was your first impressions of him? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. So until then, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.